Right. Good, good. My name is Ben Rangel, and I'm on the programming committee for Appalachia Audubon, also on the board. And I'm going to introduce our speakers tonight. I'm really excited about this because they're all amazing people. Tonight, we're going to hear from Jean Huffman, Helen Roth, Susan Carr, and Annie Schmidt. These amazing women are working together to restore and protect 700 acres of privately owned sandhill and steephead ravines in Gadsden County. And to be honest, to me, these women are heroes. Okay. I became involved in conservation issues like not really that long ago. I feel like I was one of those people that was kind of like nature blind most of my life. And then the last 5 years, I really kind of had my eyes open. And I think everybody that becomes involved in conservation, environmental issues eventually realizes that the most important strategy for protecting nature is to keep land from being developed and to manage that land to getting it back to healthy habitats. That just trumps pretty much every other thing you can do. And these four women not only realized that, they actually put it into action and are doing it. So to me, that's why they're heroes. As a result of their efforts, they're creating thriving habitats that sustain rare North Florida ecosystems. I've had the pleasure of going out to Helen's land. It's incredible. I've walked in the streams of her steepheads looking for salamanders. I've traveled through the uplands that were recently burned. And yes, these ladies are out there doing the burns. They don't just hiring people, they're helping out. If you've ever hiked Garden of Eden Trail out near Bristol, the lands they're working on look a lot like that. Just this beautiful, rare situation with all these rare plants and animals in it. And I walked away from my visit to Helen's really inspired by the idea that it's not just like land trusts and agencies with a bunch of money who can protect lands and restore them. It's individuals. It's individuals who are combining their knowledge and their passion and committing and working with the community, and they can make this kind of thing happen. I work at FWC, and I am well acquainted with the wildlife management areas that we put into conservation. And even just putting a lot for 700 acres, it's just so much work and takes a lot of passion from our site managers to make it work. And to see individuals doing that and making a decision to make their lives about that is so incredible. So I think that you will all also be inspired once you hear from these awesome ladies. So I don't know who wanted to speak first, but okay.
All right, so clip this on your pants where it's convenient, whether it's a pocket.
Yeah. Oh, put in your pocket. All right.
And then this is it.
Okay. Oh, I don't have my vest. This is that way. Testing. Okay. Is it on?
I think that.
Want to do it?
Yeah, I just didn't want to touch you.
Yeah, that's all right. All right. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Wow. Okay. This is really something. It's like a TED talk or something up here. Giant screen. Okay. My name is Susan Carr, and I'm here with my three friends. We are collectively the Crooked Creek Conservation Cooperative or Consortium or the 4 Cs. I'm just going to call ourselves the 4 Cs. There's 4 of us, and that's our group. So I live in Gainesville, so I'm kind of the absentee one. So I'm doing just intro here because these ladies really have done the real sweat equity work. And so I just we want to tell the story of the 700 acres that we're working on in Gadsden County. And that's a beautiful picture from Helen's. It's not all as beautiful like Helen's. A lot of it's a work in the progress. A lot of it is not all that beautiful right now, but it's interesting to me that we have, huh. Okay. Forward arrow. Yes.
Tab in the screen, make sure it's clicked in.
All right, okay. I guess I could just do it. Oh, it works? Okay. Oh, yeah, well, let's see. All right, woo, okay, all right. Here we are, out there in Gadsden County, almost to the river. We're about 5 miles east of Torreya State Park, if you know that area. Beautiful ravines, steephead ravines and stuff that like of that kind of thing. Okay, so this is the lay of the land. Helen owns about 100 acres on the north end up there. And she'll talk about it more, but she has I guess an intact ecosystem. I would say that it was never cleared or extensively cleared. It was fire suppressed, and she's owned it for quite a while. On the other hand, Annie and I, which the blue and the orange, bought, well, over time in 2 separate transactions, bought old St. Joe timberland. We bought it from Holland Ware after he bought it from St. Joe Timber Company. So our starting condition was really quite a bit different. It was dense sand pine, if you remember how it all used to be out there. So that's what we started with. And so I sort of grouped the parcels into 3 sort of starting condition categories. Helen's with that, she had basically the intact system, had been fire excluded for some time, but then over time she's restored it very slowly but thoroughly. And then so she's had, I consider hers like the reference site condition. It really is what we are trying to achieve on the southern parts. Annie bought that blue part back, was it 2016, 15? Okay. And so she sort of had a head start on this old, timberland, and has really done wonders out there to, really whole scale, bring in seed, bring in longleaf pine, install the burning and all kinds of stuff. Susan came along later, and then Annie and Susan collectively bought that 400 and some acre parcel in 2020 after the hurricane. And they were actually clearing the sand pine while we were under contract to buy it. So it was a fresh slate, just clean slate when we bought it. And then Jean is now, I remember I'm the absentee one. I don't do a whole lot on the ground. Jean is managing this for me. So that's why she's speaking to you about the nuts and bolts of what's gone on out there, because she knows and I don't. So thank you, Jean. Okay, so just a quick tour through time of what it looked like. This is a 1938 aerial photo right here. You can see very open, but those very distinct ravine systems. This is Crooked Creek right here. So we're in the headwaters of Crooked Creek, which flows this way toward the Apalachicola River. In 38, it was it probably has been cut over some at this point, but very open sandhills. These are really deep, droughty sands. By the 2000s, you can see all this area is dense sand pine. At this point, this is Annie's, where she had cleared the sand pine, or I guess the previous people, yeah, you bought it cleared, that's right. So that the sand pine had been cleared there, but not here yet. This is Helen's. So you see in contract, there's Helen's there. Hadn't changed too much, right? So you see there's very different land use histories here. And then this is about 2020. This is right about the time we bought this piece. You see it had just been cleared. But here's Helen's again. Still not too much change, but there is a lake there, which that has changed. That'll come in later, but keep an eye on that pond. Okay. Annie's here has been planted and seeded, and this has just been cut. So that's but our goal is to get from this more or less back to that as much as we can. You see, they've certainly done the opening up for us. And kind of I like to say on the ground, the goal is to go from this, at least for those of us with this starting condition, where you see there's really dense pines, nothing on the ground, kind of a biological desert, right? To more like this. This is Helen's land. Beautiful, and I think this is Annie's land here. So Okay, that's okay. Yeah. So sorry. I stole these from Helen. So yeah. So, we're work in the progress and desired condition for quail and all kinds of birds. You guys are bird people. So with that, okay. But okay, we're going to hear more of the details, but we had a lot of help, not just the four of us. I mean, we really have benefited greatly from federal programs, state programs, cost share programs, all these, even the Nature Conservancy. Remember, we're out there next to Apalachicola Bluffs and Ravines. So we were the lucky recipients of seed source and that sort of thing. So it was really, really great. Big shout out to the Partners for Wildlife program. If anybody's interested in that program, it's through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Sorry, this is what I kind of do in my day job. So now I go on and on. But anyhow, there are programs out there that help conservation-minded landowners to do restoration, habitat improvement. Partners for Wildlife is one of them. Also, the NRCS EQIP program, Environmental Qualities Incentive Program, and Conservation Steward programs. These are farm bill programs. You think, well, they're for farmers. Believe it or not, yeah, you can get some financial assistance for doing this kind of thing through the farm bill. So that's pretty cool. The FWC, Fish and Wildlife, they have a great landowner assistance program. Arlo Kane was a big presence here, helping us, especially get into these other programs. And Tall Timbers is also a player in this story, especially when it comes to, you think about we're doing all this work. What about the long-term protection? Well, that's at play too. And we're working with Tall Timbers toward that end. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Helen Roth next. Oh, we got to do all this stuff. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Yes, please. It's much easier. Get it angled in the right direction. Okay. I got it. Okie dokie. So what I want to say in this slide is to explain how the seepage streams naturally divide my property into 4 management areas. So you will hear me talking about the northeast, the southeast, the southwest section. I also want to make brief reference to the past and how I learned about what happened in the past. The initial logging of the property, and this goes for their properties also, was 1925. And then there was a little bit more activity in 43, 55, and then later 2003. I wanted to zero in on these areas because it goes back to why do I still have longleaf pine? In 1960, when the owner was selling the land to St. Joe didn't want my parcel. And the reason for that was there was a title issue that was created back in 1926 when they tried to do a subdivision that wasn't approved, and it was a mess. So there was a title issue that had carried forward. And so instead of selling it, he donated it to a local church. And that's good news for the longleaf pine. The church didn't cut any of the trees. They did put in a pond, and they did not burn. So the upper right picture is what happens after over 30 years of fire exclusion. So that's where my starting point is, dealing with that. The title issue was cleared in 93 when my brother bought the property from the church. And then 2003, he did a harvest of only the hardwoods. He left the longleaf alone. And so the southeast section got a jump start on the restoration process. So how did it look on the ground when I first got the property in 2008? Well, my favorite parcel was a little area I refer to as the reference area in the northeast section. And it was a 1 acre plot that my brother kept burned on an annual basis. And it was probably for hunting wildlife. But I would look at it and I saw this healthy wiregrass ground cover in the full height of the longleaf pines. And I said, I want more of the property to look like this. And then I went over to the southeast section, which was a wide open canopy. And I saw all the natural regeneration because these trees need light hitting the ground and they need a seed source and they need bare mineral soil. But a burn had not occurred there. So the wiregrass was scraggly. It was pitiful. So it was obvious that it needed burning. So I hired a private forester. Only it took the forester 3 long years before he fit me into his schedule. So with the time he burned it in 2011, those laurel oaks had just zipped on up there, and fire alone was not going to kill them. And that's obvious in that 2012 picture. So that's when I entered into a cost share contract working with Arlo, with FWC in NRCS. So this was set up to have 2 burns on each of these 3 sections, and for me to cut the trees less than 6 inches diameter, and it was mostly laurel oak, no herbicide at that time. I was trying to be pure, but it allowed me the flexibility of selectively sparing some of the trees that I wanted to keep. And Scott Copeland is in the audience here with me, cutting these initial trees. Then in 2014, I became a certified burn manager with the help of many of the people in this room. You see their pictures. And Jean Huffman took these pictures. Okay. Then in 2016, we followed up with another burn. And this time it was a June burn, so growing season. So we had an even better response to the flowers. So this is that same reference area in the northeast section in the upper left picture. And the longleaf pines, the natural regeneration was just zipping on up there, and the wiregrass was very healthy. I'm feeling good at this point in time. Really a lot of success. So I was looking at the areas next to these restored areas, and I was seeing mature longleaf pines, but there was no natural regeneration happening around them because it was a closed canopy. So it was obvious I needed to do more to restore those into a functional longleaf ecosystem. So another cost sharing contract with Equip and FWC. So now instead of 25 acres, I have 52 acres. So right after I did that, Hurricane Michael hits. This is the reference area over here on the left, the top and bottom picture. It was a mess. It took a while to get it all cleaned up, but we did get it done. Okay, 2020, we entered into a conservation easement with tall timber. And this is protecting the property from my nightmare scenario of some future owner coming in and doing a clear cut of everything and undoing everything I've already done. So the special areas that I've restored are protected, and this protects all the special plants, the animals that depend on the habitats that we're protecting. So some of the plants that we're protecting include these ones that are pictured. The second one was just discovered this year. It's Conradina glabra, Apalachicola rosemary. And I just found it this year because of the restoration. It allowed the plant to flourish and grow enough that I could spot it. And Annie did the herbarium collection for it. It was the first collection for Gadsden County, and it's my only one that's federally listed. And here's some of the animals that are protected because we're protecting the habitat. We did another burn in 2021. I love this drone photo that Neil did. It was not a growing season because we had so much fuel on the ground because of the hurricane, but it still produced a lot of flowers that fall. So I was able to collect a lot of seed, 3 bins full, and I used those seeds to plant in some of my restoration areas. Then in 2022, we really continued restoration efforts into the streams. U.S. Fish and Wildlife did all the work here. They did the permitting and the planning and implementation. So the pond is now gone. The dirt that created the dam is now back on the hill from whence it came. And the channel of the creek is finding its own deeper channels. And I'm watching the vegetation changes over time, and it's going to continue to change as it goes along. So this is for Appalachia Audubon. Thank you, guys. Peter, who I'm sure you all miss as much as I do, have been bringing y'all out for annual reviews for the conservation easement, so we could document the birds in Gadsden County and, you know, that are on our property. And it's wonderful service for me because I'm not a great birder. I put my focus on making great habitat for the birds, but I'm not that good at IDing them. So this gets it officially documented. And then this year we extended the program, expanded it to include doing a before and after growing season burn. So that we're really seeing increase with the bobwhite quails and the Bachman sparrows. And I'm also seeing a lot of red-headed woodpeckers because of all the snags I'm creating. Okay, so the other benefit of that growing season burn is flowers. I take my payment in flowers. So this is, again, that northeast restoration area. And all of this is not planted. This is the source seed for my other restoration. It's only because I opened up the canopy and did burning. But the bottom right picture is flowers that came from seeds that I collected in 2021, the picture I just showed you earlier. So this is all going full circle. Now this picture of seeds I collected this year, just recently, and they're sitting there waiting to be planted. And where I'm planting them is in a little 1 acre section that's in the southwest corner of the southwest section. That has been traditionally very difficult to burn because there's a lack of overstored longleaf pine and a lack of ground cover. So we'll get some ground cover going there so I can burn in the future. The blue flags that you see in the middle picture, those are baby longleaf pines, natural regeneration from this last year's good mast year. And this, let's see if I can point to it. Yeah, there, I almost have it. Right down, the bottom left is where the seeds went. Oops. There you go. This is the area that the seeds are going into. And come May, this is the area that we're going to be burning. Okay? So, assuming that what I've heard is correct, that the Cornell grant is extending another year, I hope Audubon will be available to help with the pre and post bird surveys for that burn in May. So the last picture is the equipment that I've been using. So like I said, I use small equipment, battery powered, doing it all by hand, while my compadres are hiring people that have big equipment. So this is the contrast. It takes a lot longer doing it my way, a lot longer, but I can be selective and surgical in what I'm doing. So turning it over to Annie now.
Yeah. Can you hold this up for me? Yeah. Thank you. Well,
I want to be, Crooked Creek Headwaters wants to be Helen's when we grow up in our restoration. So as you saw, this used to be all sand pine plantation, just cleared after in 2016, the area where you see cleared was cleared in April 2016. And it of course looked like that on the left, and then that's what it looks like when they do the clearing and when it's done. And what was funny is Jack was out helping them at some point with the tractor, and Helen and Tom went to Jack and said, "You guys might want to buy this." It's like this. And but Jack had worked at ABRP for TNC as the field operations manager for all North Florida, so we were familiar with it. And so all of a sudden, after they said that, a rainbow came out, and then little Miss Temptress Helen brought Jack over into a waterfall in one of the magical ravines that we have all through the property. And he was seduced. He even got in and said, "All right, this is sold." And so we bought this. And of course, as soon as we closed, we ran over to Helen's to tell her and show her our documents. And you can see where her southeast section is. And I don't know how to do this thing. And where the waterfall was. So then we closed October 5th, 2016, and immediately Jack wrote a prescription to do the pile burns. So a few days later, we had a celebration champagne while he burned. We even brought the cat for champagne, and she had her first dinner out there. So now I have to forget what I said. But here, I guess through the 2017, we had three more site prep burns before we planted the grass and the trees. And NRCS, so it was through, I guess the last one was 2017. And NRCS equipped, helped fund we also, it's interesting, this was also at ABRP, when you go down the slope forest, there's odd areas where it can be, there's some longleaf and little gaspy wiregrass. And it could be something to do with where the water level is, and you'll sometimes find wiregrass even by the ravine stream, and then anise way at the top. So it's, it's not like a line. So we found those, and we got with NRCS and EQIP some money for just to go chainsaw, hardwoods around those little pockets and islands on the slopes. And then we, in December 2016, we got some seed and a tiny little grasslander and started planting the grass and the wiregrass mix. And it was interesting over here, Holland Ware, believe it or not, in St. Joe, they had a very light footprint. And so I had done for a number of years the multi-state sandhill ecological restoration monitoring. And so I knew the sandhill, and it was astounding. We bought it in October. How many, as soon as there was light, all these things coming up, all these on-site sandhill species. It was, and we hardly had to, I didn't know what this was. we didn't do any real intense site prep. It was just just our little bits of burning where it would burn, and then we were ready to plant the seed, which we did all through the summer of 2017, and then in November we had one more site prep burn. The grass was growing, it could handle it. And then by November, we went out and did one more little burn. Jack's on the Terratorch on the ATV, up and down, up and down. And we were getting ready for the longleaf pine babies. And so then they arrived, and we got 24,000 longleaf pine, because out of the 154 acres that we got, only 65 of it was sandhill. Most of it was the ravine slope forest and the ravine streams. So there are babies, and they came right before Christmas, and they came late, and I had to go home for the family up in the Northeast. And so we left Helen, and Helen took these awesome photographs of everybody planting, and they were told to plant as if they're drunk. I did not want to see one line. And then and we got 24, so roughly it was about 300, 400 and longleaf pine per acre. All again, it was thanks to NRCS and EQIP. And they did that in one day. Do you believe it? So this is the way, so we did this 2017, right? And this photograph on the left is October 2018. And then this on the right is January. So look at the wiregrass. January 2019. And oh my gosh, we found a wiregrass monitor personnel on the property. And that's who that is. Irish. So it's looking okay, but I panicked. On the left, do you see those sneaky persimmons and those sneaky little baby, Quercus hemispherica that don't belong there? So I started panicking. And so, and this is 2009, what was it? Yeah, 19, August 2019. But the rainbow came back and I had hope. See, there was more. So it was great in September 2019. We tried to do a burn, tall timbers, with their awesome help for landowners. Came out to help. And I was the burn boss right up until the very last minute in the morning. They said 15 to 25 miles an hour for the, Scott, you were there. And did not get above 5 miles an hour. And it was like beating a dead horse. It was so sad, and I should have called it, but it was my first, I was just coming out of my first. So I said, what the heck? And we did it. Didn't burn very well, but we at least something, and as you'll see later. Well, still those sneaky hardwoods are getting bigger and bigger. So I had to do something in May. It was just, I was getting suffocated. And I got these gentlemen to come, and they had these medieval looking weed eaters, scary. And what they did is they just went, no chemical. I just had them get rid of the, smaller turkey oak, the Quercus, the Quercus hemispherica and the, if they would hit a dog fennel on the way, they could do it. So they did it. It was awesome. It was awesome. And then, yeah, so we did another burn with the help of all these, a lot of people here and other people came out, and it was 2020, July 19th, a little late, but it was hard getting the northeast wind there, and that's what I mean. But we finally got it, and it did better. It did better than it did in 2019. So, see, there's a little more burn there. And that was sort of right after the burn. On the right is December after the burn. Doesn't that look good? So it's getting a little better. And it's a lot of, when you burn in the growing season, you have more viable seed. So that means I'm going to get more wiregrass. Then we, okay. Then I did another burn in 2022. And this baby rolled. It rolled like you read about. It was like so amazing. And also had an amazing crew. And you can see after sort of it burned a lot more than the others. And this was wiregrass coming up 3 days afterwards, after the burn. And to the right is, I think, October, and after the burn. So it's getting thicker and thicker. Check this out. This is all October, November after that 2022 burn. And there, that's new, the barn. I live in a barn with the wiregrass monitoring personnel. And then, all right, so now we're on to the Crooked Creek Sandhills. Well, when Jack and I bought the original parcel, Hall & Ware gave us first right of refusal for the whole thing, Susan's and the other. So you see my little, I don't know what it looks like, but it's on the outside. It's all upland on the outside. And it was 155 acres. And it was, they thought my husband passed away, and they thought I had gone up to the vineyard and got away. And I said, no, this is my roots. And I love this. And so bought it with my brother, who's a conservation fanatic. And so then, where am I? Oh, I forgot to mention, in December 2019, I got a conservation easement with tall timbers. So all this is going to be protected, and I'll be sitting on a dune when the sea level rises. And all of us gals will have the most beautiful places to walk. All right, so, all right, now I'm waiting. Okay. Oh, I forgot to tell you, when we do those burns, and each one, the swallowtail kites and the Mississippi kites, if any of you been on controlled burns, it is so hard to concentrate on, burning, because they're so gorgeous and they swoop so close to the flames and through the, oh my, you get goosebumps. And because it's getting better and better, I get more and more each burn. So, all right. Yeah, so we purchased this in March 2020. And it was an old sandhill upland, just like that, totally been, sandpine plantation, St. Joe, Hall & Ware. And man, you saw Helen's pictures of Hurricane Michael, what it did in there. And so The property was clear cut before our purchase, and the site prep was so, don't look yet. The site prep was so intense. We hardly had to do anything on the other side, but here you almost had to rip everything up, which was too bad. But these guys also do the site prep for the Torrey State Park restorations. And they knew what trees to keep, what trees to get rid of, and if they saw an area of wiregrass, and there were still areas of healthy wiregrass, and I would get a text, Annie, we found another one, and they would go around it. They would protect it. They wouldn't take those. Plus, they look with all those big machinery, they tiptoed around those gopher tortoise burrows, little ones and big ones. All right, so then we got the seed. And again, this was through the American Forestry Foundation, U.S. Fish, gave me funding for site prep, fire breaks, trees, planting, awesome grant. And I was also told I was the first person that TNC funded, and they bought my seed and gave sort of minor technical assistance. So it was, when it arrived, it was celebration. Don't look, we're having champagne at 8 o'clock in the morning. And again, he's checking the wiregrass over there, the personnel. So then so that settled in, that was planted in December 2020. And then we had pine trees, 81,000 pine tubeling seedlings. So roughly 500 an acre. And they were planted in February. So, and we had some good rains after that we almost had a lot too much erosion when everything was just planted. But oh my gosh, well, you'll see. And then, oops. Oh yeah. All right. You're not going to believe me, but I swear that I'd be out there with he now wanted to supervise the pine planting. So I'd be out there with him, and a pine warbler. I have a video of them planting, and a pine warbler's just serenading when they do. All right. So now, guess what? We're getting more persimmons. And I'm going, oh no, I'm going to nip this in the bud. And so American Forestry Foundation, they amended my contract, gave me funding to do hardwood removal. And I did it earlier this time, where they have those medieval things. And then once it's cut, then they paint the chemicals. So you have a SWAT team, doing this, and the SWAT team painting. And I'm kind of doing an experiment, just sort of happened, that on my side, I'm not using chemical. I have these guys come back and do their weed thing every year, but I'm also burning every 2 years. And you saw how good the other side looked. I mean, that's how quickly, fewer and fewer. And that's way cheaper than the chemical and the whacking. Whereas using the chemical is so prohibitive, but you only need to do it once in a while. So I'm just doing a sort of little experiment to see what's going to come out cheaper or more or whatever, what's better. But the hardwoods weren't that bad. So, all right. So this is it. This is what it looks like as of October 2023. And I'm burning both. The time it was wrong. Both. I'm burning this first burn 2024 in May, and the other side also 2024. So thank you. That's it. I was too long, was I too long?
4 minutes, but sorry, it's fine. You're good.
Oh, geez. I'm so nervous. I ran away with the mic.
Is it okay if I put this on you?
Yes, please.
What? Oh, okay. All right, this is the final section. It's Susan Carr's land. And her land is these 2 pieces. And we have been doing the most recent restoration treatments and all. And we've learned from the previous work of both Annie and Helen. So I just wanted to say that this is all about fire. You know, the reason that the land is messed up is because it's been fire excluded, you know, and then the oaks come in, etc. And the goal for all of this is to be managed with fire in the future, that will be the only thing that needs to be done with it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the 12-acre. It's a 12-acre parcel, and you can see that it's oh, I got the mouse here. You can see that it's right next to Helen's land, and it was the same kind of condition as Helen's, except that it was a little longer fire excluded because it wasn't acquired and we didn't start doing things with it for longer. As far as the condition that it had an old homestead. So the aerial from 1938 shows that part of this land was cleared because the scars from where land is cleared last pretty much forever. But it also had some good habitat, sandhill, longleaf pines, etc. But over time, with the fire exclusion, you can see in this one that it became really full of hardwoods, laurel oaks, etc. that come in when fire is excluded. And on the ground, it looked a bit like this, at least parts of it. Other parts of it were some better condition, but this was the problem. So in 2021, Chaz Oliver and people tried to burn this and burnt it partially, but the problem of the laurel oaks, both making it so that it won't burn thoroughly and the fact that they're there and fire isn't going to take them out, meant that we needed to do a restoration plan for this piece of property. And we'd learned from Helen that just cutting the trees and not using any kind of herbicide, you just get resprouts that are constant. And so herbicide, as she did in her second section, you know, decide to use herbicide. But in our case, we did slash and herbicide, cut, what's the word? Cut and squirt. Anyhow, we did that, but before we did, like Helen also did, before we did that treatment, we went in and selected the fire type oaks to keep and other selected trees to keep and not herbicide out. So Helen and I marked trees not to herbicide. Then again, the herbicide crew came and did the herbiciding on this 12 acres in less than a day. And that was the first step to reduce this oak cover. And then the second step was, that was done, let me see, I can't think of it right now, but it was done in the December, and then the mowing was done in June. So it was followed by mowing. And you can see that the herbicide treatment was really effective in reducing this canopy and it leaving the pines. So what's left here now is mostly scattered longleaf pine. And the present condition is, you know, that residual ground cover that was fire suppressed or in there has really responded to the additional light. It was supposed to be followed immediately with a burn, but because the treatments were so late in the year, they didn't. But we're going to be burning this shortly, like next month. And as fire is used, and that's the plan for this property from now on, is 1 to 3 year burns to maintain it, and that'll just be restored really quickly and be beautiful like Helen's that it's really a part of. The second tract is much bigger, and it's like what Annie was describing. History of planted sand pines that really shade out and leaf litter out all the good ground cover, and no fire, of course. And these sand pines were harvested in after Hurricane Michael and before the land was acquired. And whereas Annie did the restoration treatments right after the sand pines were harvested, we had a delay of a couple years. And in that couple of years, all the ones that Annie say are the baddies or whatever, the persimmon, sand pine, all kinds of things that aren't part of the system started coming in and kind of taking over. But so we knew we needed to restore it, but had to make a plan for this kind of different kind of site. And instead of clearing it out, well, we assessed the vegetation that was there. And like Annie said, there were patches of wiregrass. There were all different species, you know, things that had held on through the sand pine era, and didn't want to disturb them. So we came up with a plan to herbicide the hardwoods, mow it and burn it as the site preparation. It needed more site prep in a way than the other, because it waited so long and had the hardwoods grow. But this was done just in August of 2022 for the herbicide, and the burn and mowing, and then the burning in fall of 2022. We also then, I mean, that was all to prepare the site for ground cover planting. And so we also got seeds from a nearby area and had the grasslander, and this was the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service people, planted the wiregrass ground cover in February. And then the longleaf pines, another 80,000 longleaf pines were planted in March of 2023. So less than a year ago. And it's interesting to see the results this fall. So this all happened, you know, in the spring. And even by this fall, you could see all of that original vegetation that was suppressed come out after the burn and after getting exposed to all this light and things that have underground parts like liatris and here, and the lupins all kinds of great stuff in here, including the residual wiregrass and but there's still a lot of open areas, and that we're hoping to see over the next year or two the results of planting the ground cover, that things will come in there for that. And the longleaf pines are doing well. And there are so many other species of things. And the wiregrass actually bloomed, so that's interesting too. And there are harvester ants and some fauna that's colonizing or, you know, has held on in there. To look at all the changes here, my husband, Neil Jones, and I have put in a series of photo points just to be able to document what's going on out there. And we have two kinds. One are panoramas that look at just the overall aspects, so pre-treatment, post-treatment, where it's ready for wiregrass planting. And then this fall, quite a lot of things grew back by this fall. That looks dead there because it's winter, not because it's herbicide. And the other kind of monitoring that we're doing is Neil does drone photos, and we're doing a meter square area, a pretty low altitude, and looking at changes. You can actually zoom. I kind of want to see what this looks like on the screen. Oh, it's not that big. You can actually see the species. And so for the larger area around there, you can tell woody cover, what's going on. And for the smaller area, you can see what's wiregrass and what's other things. So it's a way of doing some kind of monitoring, even though we don't have time to really do anything like real sampling. So we have 90 acres left of this tract that have different conditions than those that we've talked about so far. This area here is was cleared before 2019 of its sand pines, and Holland Ware, I guess, planted it to longleaf pines for pine straw operation. So this 29 acres has fairly tall longleaf pines now, but they bedded it, so disturb the ground cover by bedding it, and then they herbicide it like every year. And all this land around this beautiful oasis of restoration, like all of this land here is planted to these kind of pine straw, longleaf pine straw operations, and they are a biological desert like the sand pine was, except even worse because they're constantly herbicided. So we have a little piece of that we're going to experiment with restoring in the coming year, 2 years. And then the last thing that we have left is the land around the ravine system. So there's a little creek that goes through here. And on the one side, someone had planted slash pines, and it's long unburned with big slash pines. And then the other area has native, well, it never was cleared to sand pine or any kind of forestry, and but it's long fire excluded. So that'll be on our list for future restoration. And let me see, sorry. And that's it. So we're looking forward to having all these areas in perpetual fire management and restoring and getting better as time goes by. And this is a thank you to more people than this, many, many people who helped with this project. Oh, I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, did you want to make some?
No, no,
Do
no.
a
Oh,
wrap
oh,
up?
I'll just say, yeah, can you hear me? Sure. Yes, thank you. That's the end and, it's quite as, well, I was just gonna repeat questions for the Zoom audience all right. These ladies over here. Oh, okay. Thank you. All right. Okay. Was there a slide? Maybe a slide after. Oh, yeah. Are there any questions? I'm Susan again. Yes, ma'am.
Where this precipitating, both Helen and I guess also.
Yes,
But
yes.
it's about- and then is it for the wiregrass, is it mixed in with something else to distribute it in like big bundles? Where
Right.
does that seed come from?
Well, let me repeat the question for the Zoom audience. She asked where the seed source, she asked about the seed source and also if there's anything mixed in with the seed for spreadability or anything like that. So I'm going to
Hand this to one of you guys.
Take my card first.
On my property, it was locally sourced. I collected it on my property and spread on my property. Now, I'm gonna let, okay.
And answer on there.
On ours, it was gotten from TNC properties that they had restored. And then they used them to harvest seeds. And an interesting thing I wanted to say about the seed, it didn't have anything non-seed in it. You know, it didn't have any like medium or that, but it has lots of different kinds of seeds, which is neat because they'll call it wiregrass seed and say we're restoring wiregrass, but it's really a mix of seeds and you get other things as well, all the fall blooming wildflowers and stuff, seeds, and you get that coming in, not just wiregrass.
Well,
Yeah, we're out of Zoom right here, so.
oh,
Yeah.
the same thing. My seed came from ABRP, Apalachicola Bluffs and Ravines Preserve. That TNC gave us the funding for. And what they do is over there, they collect usually around, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, like around November, October, they collect the seed and then they use the seed for the restoration at Victoria State Park or wherever, you know, the now little private landowners. So,
Yeah, we did get like, so yes, I mean, like, I'm just gonna say that, because it's collected with a flail, big collector in the fall, you're getting not just wiregrass seed, but things that have viable, have seed in November. So I would say also then there's gonna be this big bias to fall flowering and fruiting, plants. So
I have one more thing to add on mine. So just one more contrast on me. I didn't have any big equipment to collect the seed. I collected by hand, take it off stalks, put it in a bag, and mixing all the seeds, the forbs and the wiregrass seed together. So it's an even mixture. And then I'll be spreading it by raking by hand and spreading by hand. So I'm small scale, they're big scale.
Yeah.
we're
Scale.
trying to go fast forward to get to
Yeah.
where you are.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What do your neighbors think? It seems like they're some type of agricultural conglomerate. Are they open to what y'all are working on, or are they more hesitant or just indifferent?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, one of our neighbors is here. Yeah, oh, that, we have like, there's one, okay, and then Clayton, there's one there. So, we actually have some really great neighbors and I'm just gonna say, yes. So we have a mixture of actually folks that are
also doing this and interested in this. We have other people who have lived out there maybe a long time. And then we have the big, well, we have Holland Ware, right? And they, yeah, I mean, the big, and they, well, I mean, I don't live out there. Annie lives out there. Maybe she, but, we haven't had any problems or anything like that. We bought the land. That was fine, but it is kind of an interesting area to see that they, you know, they are doing large scale pine straw harvesting. It hadn't really kicked in yet, but they have, I don't know if y'all remember it when they bought thousands of acres out there not that long ago and went out and triple bedded everything and planted all this longleaf really dense. And they're doing pine straw, and I think they're doing carbon credits.
Yes, they are, aren't they? Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to say anything?
No, but, well, I live out there with my, personnel, Wiregrass. And it is, I haven't had any bad, or I think everyone's kind of thinks it's kind of cool, and of course. Right,
Oh, yeah.
that's,
Well, I have hunters, so.
yeah.
But great question. So it really, it's kind of a,
Oh, yes.
oh, okay, yeah. The people who live out there are excited about yeah, they're,
Had any Bob White. We hadn't had any Bob White, northern Bob Whites out there. It was so strange. But just the last couple of years, all of a sudden they're coming in, and exponentially the populations are growing. American woodcock, and that's like growing. The Bachmans, I mean, living out there is really waking up in the morning, and just each time, each spring, it's like, wow, more and more. All the, you know, indigo buntings, blue grosbeaks, kestrel. Actually, when the barn was being built, I have so many bluebirds, and that huge barn, there were no sides to it. And they immediately went in and thought it was a gigantic castle of a bluebird box. And then after that, the American kestrel would roost there every night. Oh, but I have so many birds. It's when you do this, who was saying earlier, you build the habitat, they come. And then having all of us like abutting each other, it's like we're this continuous. Oh,
this is for the Zoom people. I'm just, the Zoom, this is the only way they can hear you on Zoom.
Oh, I'm done. Any birds, ask. I mean, I have this whole list, but
Yeah.
I think everyone wants to go home.
So we have some good bird neighbors too, to answer your question, but no, it's been pretty good. So any other questions? No?
I do have
Okay,
one.
yes.
You'll just hold the mic for
Okay.
me. Well, I neglected to remind everybody, wildlife friendly yard tour is this Saturday. It's going to be a wet one. Tickets are on sale at Wild Birds Unlimited and Native Nurseries. Please buy tickets to support it, whether you can feel brave enough to come out. It does. Hopefully it's just going to be intermittent. It's just going to be rain all day. So wear a poncho, bring your umbrella, but the yard tour will be going on. So please join us this Saturday. This is gonna be fun.
Thank you. Okay. Well, are there any other, I just want to say thank you to the 4 Cs here, my 3 C comrades. Yeah, thanks, guys. And oh, it's a picture. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you.